My husband, John, was the perfect man, a loving father, a devoted partner, and a respected pillar of our church community. We had a beautiful life, 2 wonderful children, and what I thought was an unbreakable bond. But when he died suddenly in a car accident, my perfect world didn't just crack, it shattered into a million pieces. And at his funeral, I learned that the man I had spent 15 years loving was a complete stranger. The church was packed, friends, family, and our entire congregation were there to mourn him. His parents, David and Carol, sat beside me, holding my hand, telling me what a saint their son was. The pastor spoke of John's generosity, his kindness, his unwavering faith. I cried, believing every word. Then, a woman I'd never seen before walked in with a young boy who was the spitting image of my husband. She sat in the back, her eyes fixed on the casket. A cold dread washed over me. After the service, John's parents cornered her. I couldn't hear their hushed, angry words, but I saw them slip her an envelope. She left without a sound. That night, curiosity and annoying suspicion led me to John's old laptop. What I found was a secret life I couldn't have imagined. Emails, bank statements, photos, it was all there. John had been having an affair for 7 years with that woman, Sarah. The little boy was their son. And the perfect life we had was built on a mountain of debt he'd accumulated to support his second family. He'd mortgaged our home to the hilt, drained our savings, and even taken out loans in my name without my knowledge. We were financially ruined. When I confronted his parents with the evidence, their sympathy vanished. They admitted they knew. They had been funding his double life, helping him hide the affair to protect the family's good name and their standing in the church. They told me it was my duty as a good Christian wife to forgive, forget, and quietly handle the mess. They offered to help, but on their terms. I would have to sell my house, give them a significant portion of the proceeds to repay their support of John's other family, and never speak a word of this to anyone. They were essentially blackmailing me with my own grief and financial ruin. The pastor, a man I had trusted for years, backed them up. He preached forgiveness and protecting the church's image. My pain, my children's future, none of it mattered as much as their reputation. That night, something inside me broke. The grief turned into a cold, hard rage. They thought I was a meek, grieving widow they could control. They were wrong. I wasn't just going to survive. I was going to take back everything they had tried to strip away from me. My dignity, my security, my children's future. And I was going to do it by using the very system they held so dear, their reputation. My plan started quietly. I didn't yell or scream. I played the part of the grieving widow perfectly. I told John's parents I would agree to their terms, that I needed their help navigating the finances. They relaxed, thinking they had won. Meanwhile, I started gathering every piece of evidence. I printed the emails, the bank statements showing transfers from his parents to Sarah, the forged loan documents. I hired a forensic accountant, using the last of my emergency money, to trace every single dollar. He uncovered a complex web of deceit. John and his father had been running a scheme through the church's charity fund, skimming money for years. Their perfect reputation was a hollow shell. I also reached out to Sarah, the other woman. I found her not with anger, but with empathy. I showed her the proof that John had been lying to her too. He told her he was a wealthy, single businessman who traveled a lot for work. She had no idea he was married with children. She was just as much a victim as I was. John's parents had been paying her hush money, threatening to ruin her reputation if she ever came forward. Together, Sarah and I was stronger. She agreed to testify if it came to it. The next step was to plant seeds of doubt within the church community. I started small, dropping seemingly innocent comments. I'm so overwhelmed with all the debt John left. I had no idea things were so bad. Or, it's strange, I found some large payments to someone I don't know. David and Carol said they'd help me figure it out. I played the confused, helpless widow. People started whispering. The perfect image of the family began to tarnish. The final act was set for the annual church fundraising gala, the biggest social event of the year. David, John's father, was scheduled to give the keynote address about family values and integrity. It was poetic. I spent weeks preparing. I compiled all my evidence into neat, undeniable packets: the affair, the secret child, the financial fraud, the church skimming. I made dozens of copies. The night of the gala, I walked in wearing a stunning black dress. Not a widow's mourning dress, but a warrior's armor. I greeted everyone with a serene smile. John's parents looked at me, relieved, thinking I was playing my part. When David took the stage, the room was silent. He began his speech, talking about legacy and honesty. As he spoke, Sarah and I, along with a few friends I confided in, moved silently through the room, placing a packet of evidence at every single table. The whisper started as a low hum and grew into a roar. People opened the folders, their faces shifting from confusion to shock, then to outrage. David's voice faltered as he saw what was happening. His wife, Carol, turned pale. I walked to the front of the room, took a microphone from the stand, and looked directly at him. "Integrity, David," I said, my voice clear and steady. "Let's talk about integrity. Let's talk about the son you enabled, the family you helped him destroy, and the church funds you've been stealing for years." I laid it all bare: the affair, the lies, the financial ruin, and their attempt to blackmail me into silence. I introduced Sarah and her son, who stood quietly by the door. The entire congregation saw the truth. There was no denying it. The aftermath was explosive. An internal investigation was launched. David and several other church elders were removed and faced legal charges. Their reputation was annihilated, not by gossip, but by cold, hard facts. They lost everything they had valued: their status, their power, and their money. I sold the house, but on my own terms. I used the evidence of the forged loans to clear my name of the debt. With the money from the sale, and a settlement from John's parents to avoid further legal action, I moved with my children to a new city to start over. It wasn't easy. There were days of doubt and lingering pain. But for the first time in a long time, I felt free. I had been pushed to the edge, but instead of falling, I learned how to fly. This wasn't just revenge, it was reclamation. I took back my life, my power, and my future, and in doing so, I found a strength I never knew I had. My children are thriving, and I've built a new life for us, one based on truth and resilience. The fire I walked through didn't consume me, it forged me. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt powerless, remember that there is incredible strength waiting within you. Please like, share, and subscribe for more stories of resilience and empowerment.